Hi, this is Veruschka from here on the Big Island of Hawaii, and this is my Salt of the Earth interviews. And today I am beyond thrilled to be speaking to one of my favorite singers of all time and who has been part of the soundtrack of my life. And life wanted me to meet her here in my very own Hilo town. And drum roll, please. She is a very special lady in all ways. She's an Emmy winner and a 3-time Grammy-nominated recording artist, Toni Childs. In addition to being a very successful recording artist who toured with Bob Dylan and Al Green, she's an installation artist and now a yoga teacher. Remember the album Union? It makes total sense, everything that you're being and doing right now. Toni will be touring the world, bringing her very special brand of yoga to 28 countries this year. I'm so privileged to have met you. Welcome, Toni Childs.
Aloha.
Aloha. I'd love to hear in your words of what you call yourself right now as well, other subtitles you have, because in my experience you are a complete activator and catalyst, and you had the whole class of women, including myself, in tears for 2 hours.
Oh my God. Wow. So yeah, I met you at on Hilo in this really beautiful yoga studio. Can you refresh my memory with the name?
Yogashala?
Yeah,
Yogashala.
Yogashala. Yes, in Hilo, and so lovely community there. And I did with my husband Mick. My husband Mick and I are traveling town to town, country to country, sharing and wanting to connect with like-minded individuals who want to grow their personal seed of evolution. I have a song that is responsible for me traveling. It tells me to become a yoga teacher, and it's a song called Because You're Beautiful. In 1997, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, which is a hyperthyroid condition where your body overproduces adrenaline and you're in this constant fight or flight. My eyes were bulging out of my head. And that's what basically got me into the doctor's office, and where I found out I had Graves' disease and my resting heartbeat was at 120 beats per minute. It was like a slow boil. I didn't really know I was sick at the time. I just was getting a lot done. It leaves you quite manic, and believe me, I was really getting a lot done. The doctor told me
this was in Kauai?
No, this was actually in Los Angeles. This is in 1997, before I moved to Kauai, Hawaii. So what happened for me was that my doctor would tell me, I believe you have Graves' disease and you're going to need to see a specialist, in which I did. And then I was told I should have my thyroid taken out or I should have it nuked, which I said no. And he said, you need to stop your life. Your life is causing too much stress for you. And I didn't believe him. And so I went to another doctor, and other doctor said the same thing. I want to nuke your thyroid or I want to take it out. And I was like, no, I'm not going to let you take my thyroid. But you need to understand, you need to dismantle your life. You have too much going on in your life, and it's causing too much stress for you. And then I went and saw a third doctor, and that doctor said the same thing as the other two doctors. And in fighting for and trying to not believe them, I went on some medication that they recommended, and that medication made me feel like, oh my God, I have been sick. It brought me into what I felt was now normal, and I could see that I had been manic. I just had no idea. And so I believed them then at that point. That was kind of the proof for me, and I dismantled my life, and I moved to the island of Kauai. I gave up. I had a charity called Dream a Dolphin, and I closed the doors of my internet cafe called Dolphin House on Abbot Kinney in Venice, California, which is a part of Los Angeles. And then I closed up house in Sausalito where I had a home, and the album that I was working on, I put it to rest. I just dismantled my life. It's the best call. And I moved to the island of Kauai where I had people who I really loved and felt connected to, and this island that just spoke to me in this really beautiful way, and I knew I needed to live there to heal. So I landed on the beautiful island of Kauai. I found a beautiful house to rent, and this would be in 1999 now. And I landed on my birthday. I found this house. I set up a room to meditate in and do my personal meditation and yoga sessions, and which always nurture me. And in the first week of sitting my personal yoga practice, what came to me was that perhaps what's really going on with you has nothing to do with what you do for a living, has nothing to do with how much you have on your plate, but in fact, environmental impact. And so with that intuition, I then had a hair analysis. That was also, have a hair analysis was my intuition. And so I did. I would find out I had high levels of mercury. My father-in-law at the time was a prominent microbiologist and worked at a prestigious lab in Palo Alto in California. When I told him the result of the hair analysis, he just told me, hey, you know what, that's bunk science. Don't believe a hair analysis. And I said, well, it says high levels of mercury. He goes, go and have a blood draw. And so on his recommendation, I went to have a blood draw, and mercury came back 7 parts per million floating in my blood system, which meant I was getting it right here and now on Kauai. Oh my God.
Oh.
So that meant my Brita tabletop filtering system wasn't working. And then I did the investigation to try to figure out where I was getting it. Where was I getting this mercury? And we worked out it was actually from the drinking water. There was a leaky well in the neighborhood that I was living. In that well, the well fittings held 25 pounds of mercury, and it broke. And it leached into the well and into the groundwater and into the holding tank, and came to my door. Now, when I told my father-in-law this, he had me then do a chelation. He said, well, let's see how much mercury you have in your system, because there's a thing called a chelation. And what a chelation agent does is it means grab. It grabs the heavy metals that are in your tissues and in your blood and pull them out, and then you release it out through your urine. And so the trick and the problem with this is that it could repoison you. And if you've been accumulating mercury over a long period of time, this could greatly poison you. Because I had only lived on Kauai for such a short time, I thought, okay, well, let's just see what this is. I didn't think there would be a lot of mercury. But what ended up happening is that I did this test, and my hair fell out in massive clumps. I had short-term memory loss for 3 weeks, like Alzheimer's, where people would talk to me, and I'd have absolutely no memory of them talking to me at all. It was a very, very scary time in my life. And then the man I was married to at that moment was away in the Philippines working on an animation project. my Hanai mothers were there, and I left the water running. I flooded my house. I did all kinds of crazy stuff, and I was really worried I might burn the house down. So I went and stayed with them. And then it dissipated. I would find out that the two other places I lived in California, because I liked living in older sections of the city where they didn't change out their water fittings, were also fittings that were mercury fittings. And we tested the water, and mercury came back in the water there as well. So what we realized is that I had really poisoned myself badly doing that chelation, thinking that I wouldn't have that much in my system. But it turned out I had a lot of mercury in my system, and to this day I am still in the process of releasing this. This is what brought me to Kauai, and then I began on a very big emotional descent, because what I realized is that I had given my power away. Oh my God. I allowed these doctors to tell me my lifestyle instead of them actually looking for the cause that might be causing my thyroid to act like this. They just made this blanket assumption that it was what I did for a living. I, in turn, made a blanket assumption that they knew what they were talking about, and I essentially gave my power away, which put me on a depressing descent, because I just let everything in my life go. And here I was now on the island, and what had I done? I remember going to the beach one morning. I went to this beach called Kealia on Kauai and took my dogs every morning. It was a ritual. This one morning I was out, there was a woman in the water with me, and her name was B. Lovejoy. B. Lovejoy was her name, and she was from Texas, and she had a southern accent. And while I was out beyond the breakers with her, she goes, "I'm here on vacation. Why are you here? What are you doing here on this beautiful island?" And I said to her, "Well, it's a long story." She goes, "Well, I got time," in her beautiful Texas voice. And I explained to her, and afterwards she paused and she looked at me and she said, "You know, all disease is a lack of self-love." And I stopped for a moment and I thought, yeah, you know what, that sounds right. And she goes, "Why don't you just go home and touch yourself? Get in the shower and touch yourself with love." And you know what I did? I went home and I got in my shower and I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. And when I went to touch my toes and tell my body I loved it, I suddenly looked around to see if there was a hidden camera. And I was really like, oh my God, I'm like by myself and I can't, and I felt it challenging to tell myself that I love myself. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And then what I did was that I said, okay, if I pretend that I'm just a little kid and I touch my toe and I say, "I love you, toe. I love you, feet. Thank you, feet. I love you, ankles." And I did this as if I was like a little kid. I suddenly burst into tears. And I burst into these tears that were like this huge sobbing where there's no sound comes out, a very deep cry. And in this cry, I realized, oh my God, a part of myself has needed to be loved. I've needed this love from my own self. And in that moment, I realized I had a beauty wound. I realized that I was this living beauty. That's just who I am, and that I was not seeing myself correctly. I was not relating to myself correctly. I had given my power away to these doctors, to society. I had assumed things, and I was not consciously aware of what I was ingesting, what I was putting into my body, and all of these on all these multiple levels. And most importantly, I was not loving myself. I had overly defined myself as Toni Childs, the artist, and I didn't even know who I was if I wasn't Toni Childs, the artist. So I went on this amazing journey. I then, through my meditations and my yoga, I realized I needed to have also an allergen test, and I had a blood draw to see if there were foods, if I were any foods or anything that I was allergic to. And I had this extensive test done that tested me for all sorts of things like chlorine and sulfates and detergents that were in contact all the time. And I found out I was allergic to chlorine and sodium lauryl sulfate, which are in toothpaste and shampoos, commercial shampoos, and laundry detergents and detergents you use to wash your dishes. And so it's the foaming agent in it.
Uh-huh.
And then I realized that I became an organic farmer. I really got my act together. I realized I need to clean my act up. I started making my own shampoos. I started making my own arm deodorants. I started making my own toothpaste. And in this process of doing this, I began to ascend. I created a water meditation where I touched every part of my body every day with love, told I loved it. And then I geeked out in a big way, and I started creating these chakra body polishes. And in each one, I would put Davic fields of the essential oils and spices and herbs into the oils and infuse them with different minerals that are like rose quartz and amethyst and citrine and different things. So these chakra body polishes, and then I would take them and I would make them on the full moon, and I would make them on new moons, and I would create them in this environment of sacred space. And then what I would do is I would put them on my body, and I would focus on a particular chakra, and I would start to cleanse out the energy, all that does not serve it, and ground it, all of the things. And I would continue them up. In 2 years, less than 2 years, I weaned myself off the medication, and I had no longer had Graves' disease and completely healed myself. And in this process of feeling really good about myself, living on this beautiful piece of land, and growing and stretching and expanding as a human being and as a woman on the planet, my Hanai mother informed me that the sexual assault treatment center on our island had lost its funding, and we needed to raise money for it. And so we put forth, let's do the vagina monologue. And so they contacted Eve Ensler, the author, and asked if we could do a performance on our island to raise money, and she gave us approval, like she does so many organizations around the world and women's groups and communities. And we did the production. And just before the production, our first rehearsal, dress rehearsal, Eve Ensler showed up to our humble production on this really small island of Kauai. She was on her way back from Sydney, and she had a friend who was on the island on the North Shore. We were all so excited to see her and meet her, and it turned out she was a huge Toni Childs fan. And after the concert, like two little kids, head to head, talking, she looked around and then she said to me, "What are you doing on this rock? Why? You got to get off this rock. You need to be making music." And she goes, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I've been sick." And she said, "No, we got to get you off this rock. I want you to write an anthem. I want you to write an anthem that will inspire people to end violence against women and girls for all time. And you can't say no. I have a documentary called Until the Violence Stops, and I want you to write this anthem." I looked at Eve and I made her no promises. For the next 3 to 4 months, I would think about it. I saw the rough cut of the documentary, and it was great, very powerful. Some very prominent actresses from around the world, different Peaches, the V-Day, different people and communities that the V-Day organization that Eve Ensler created to support women and the violence ending against women. She, an incredible woman. Anyway, the documentary is so powerful. It's called Until the Violence Stops, and I really recommend your listeners tuning in. And then, so then I'm thinking about this. If violence was really going to end, what would need to be the very first thing in a big, big answer? An answer with many faces. What would maybe need to be one of the first things? And what came to me, perhaps the first thing that would need to happen in a very big answer is that we as women stop the violence we inflict on ourselves every day through negative self-talk. Understanding that I had a beauty wound. I was working on a book called Living Beauty, Alchemy of Acceptance. So it was perfect timing for me to do this performance of the vagina monologues and for Eve to ask me this. And so I wrote a song, Because You're Beautiful. And then I put the song on an album called Keep the Faith. And then I started touring and released it around the world. And I started touring the world again. And my first place I started touring was Australia and New Zealand.
Mm-hmm. And how did you choose that at the time?
Well, they wanted. There was interesting because I was going to release the album at the same time I would release my products in Australia. I had a certified organic. So also what was going on for me at that time is in 2001 I started a company called Feminine Mysteries, and I began to make those body polishes that I told you about, and I started making shampoos and things like that, and that was the company name. I created Feminine Mysteries LLC, and then I realized I don't want to be a manufacturer, but I did enjoy making my body polishes, but I didn't want to make the shampoos and conditioners and the body lotions and the body washes. So I found a company, a certified organic factory outside of Melbourne in Australia. And they made great products, and they've been working with me since 2007. I launched my very first line of 8 products of shampoos, conditioners, body wash, and body lotions. Black coconut Tahitian vanilla and black coconut and lemongrass. I created a line of affirmation body products because of my water meditation that I did. So I created products that say, I love my hair, I love my body, I love my face, I love my pits, I love my tits. And just recently, I launched my first certified organic line of arm deodorant called I Love My Pits. So,
fabulous.
So in 2008,
that's amazing.
So in 2008, I released my new album, and together at the same time, my natural body care product offering. And I cross-promoted it, and I had a very successful run of tours. I did a total of 6 tours over 3 years, and or maybe actually more tours than that. And I toured all over the nooks and crannies of Australia. When it came time to sing this song, Because You're Beautiful, I would check in and just look at the women in the audience, and I began to notice a pattern. I would see women in these rural areas of Australia checked out, looking like they left themselves on the side of the road and forgot to go and pick themselves up. It looked like maybe they had given all their energy to their children, or maybe they had stayed in a relationship when they should have left, or maybe they had lost somebody. Whatever it was, they were losing their power and they were losing their juiciness. And I finally plucked up courage to say something. I remember my band looking at me the first time I did it. I remember saying, okay, I need to say something, women. I've got a song I want to sing to you. I want you to come up here on stage because I want to sing to you right in your eyes because it looks like you've left yourself someplace and you've forgotten who you are and the truth about who you are and how beautiful you are. And so the women came onto the stage and they began crying when I sang this song and saying to them that they're beautiful. They were fighting back the tears because here they are in this public space, and suddenly they were being touched in such a way that made them feel so exposed and vulnerable. And after many, many concerts that way, I realized I need to take this into a more intimate environment, an environment that's not so public, a very safe space. I've been practicing yoga for 30 years. My Hanai mother on Kauai, she teaches yoga, and I've been attending her yoga for many years. Her son, Saul, my Hanai brother, he's one of the prominent yoga teachers in America, Saul David Ray. And they've been a massive influence on my style of yoga. And learning from them, I embarked on designing and devising a very special yin-inspired, restorative, heart-centered yoga practice called Because You're Beautiful Yoga. And that's what I'm doing now. And that's why I'm talking to you today.
Mm-hmm. What a beautiful, beautiful journey. I've had chills and tears, and what a journey. I was just visualizing you with your science lab in your kitchen in Kauai and wondering how you had all the energy to do all of these things while you were healing yourself. I'm just so moved and touched of how you took it down and found a different avenue, to in a way translate this message. And so now, in moving forward in doing these yoga sessions in the way, style and manner you're doing this with your husband, Mick, what is the message that you're bringing across? You told me that you're going to be visiting 28 countries and traveling with this message and touching so many people. Do you want to share? Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sharing the truth about who we are as human beings. I think that our ancestors, even our parents, and because their parents and the parents before them, so our ancestors weren't able to really tell us who we are, how beautiful we are, and tell us with completely believing it and knowing it in themselves who we are as living beings on this planet. And because of this, we've been left in the dark. We've been separated from our own power, and we don't really understand how absolutely powerful we are. We have glimpses of it, and then we don't know how to own it. We feel like we need permission to take up space in the world. We can feel like we're not worthy or deserving of somehow and less than, and create and have an addiction, a shame and addictions and unworthiness addictions, where we see ourselves constantly fighting this battle of being less than in all situations. When we see somebody that we admire, we think, oh, I wish I could be like that, instead of understanding that we are our own, that we have all of that inside of us as well. And so each one of us are unique as a snowflake, as a thumbprint, and because of that, our gifts and the ancestral lineages we were born into are as different as that as well. And we come with very special gifts because we were born to them, but we also come with very special wounds also because we were born into these ancestral lines. What my yoga is about seeing and resonating. So when you come to my yoga session, we dance and celebrate. You know this because you got to do it. So what we do first is we heat up the body with joy and celebration and dance. We play 3 very spunky, beautiful, inspirational songs that allow us to share who we are with each other, to show our spunky, beautiful selves, sexy selves, and we celebrate each other, and we celebrate each other for choosing to be born into a body, into an organic world. It's not an easy thing. It is a full-on pressure cooker reality to be born into this construct of reality that we call the earth and this world, this universe. And so
what you're really doing is, in my experience, is you're really singing to our souls, and it's something beyond our mind is getting activated, and the participants can really receive the truth through your voice, and they're just being so nakedly spoken to. And so in a way, in this opening or transmission that you're giving, how do you hope for them to continue their path of blossoming once they leave the studio?
Well, what I hope is that my singing is like a tuning fork. Right. So I sing 4 songs as a part of the yoga sessions, and the music is very futuristic. So it feels very vast and expansive. So it opens you up. We also sit in 15 minutes of silent meditation, which also puts us in a receptive position to receive this song. And then the final song of the session, this 90-minute session, is Because You're Beautiful. And then we get to tune into, so the song is like a tuning fork. It just tells you what already exists inside of you. I just get to sing to you, and you get to feel that feeling of being seen as you are, beautiful. And you get to drink it in, and then you get to actually see how you have not been holding yourself in that way. You get to attune to something, and you have a chance to feel a resonance, and then you get to go, hey, you know what? I want to let go of all that does not support me identifying with this aspect of who I am, the beauty of who I am. And then I'm in a position to grow my own personal seed of evolution. I'm able to grow the seed, like all seeds, that have been wanting to germinate and grow inside of us, so we can go to the next level of human evolution. That's what it feels like to me. Did it feel like that to you?
Yeah, yes, definitely. I mean, it's so completely out of the box. I mean, it's a definite wake-up call in the way that you show up and present it. Such a blessing and a gift. So on your tour that you're going to be embarking on here in April, you're first going to Brazil and South Africa and then in Europe. Are there ways for people to track you or find you in their cities, and also to host you or give you leads to wonderful places?
Yes. So we're looking for yoga communities across the board. I am placing onto my, we're doing a post out, a new newsletter that will go on, a blog that will go on to the becauseyourbeautiful.yoga is the site. So it's because you're, YOURE, because you're beautiful.yoga. You can go to the blog section and just keep posted, and you can go to the event section and you can see what events and where we're doing workshops and all of this. So everything about this is about returning what is the truth to you, just singing to you what is true and giving you an opportunity to do the work that you need to do to create greater bandwidth inside yourself so you can actually connect in to your own internal wisdom and teacher to give you guidance and strengthen the power of who you are as an individual to create the realities that you want to create in this world.
Beautiful.
Creating
That's super.
So important.
Can you repeat that?
Creating bandwidth is so important. We are broadcasters and receivers. Bandwidth, yes. We are broadcasters and receivers. If we're only receiving a negative radio station, cycling, negative self-talk, and we don't dismantle that radio frequency and put it out of business, we can't really align with the truth of who we are. We're just listening to the noise and static.
Right, right. So you're completely giving people that permission and empowering them. And so you also have recently started offering some workshops in conjunction with this called Rites of Passage in New Zealand, and that's the topic I'm really passionate about. Is there anything you want to share about your vision with that?
Yeah, so what we have here is, in doing these yoga sessions, and I realized that there was more work that we could do as a community together by linking in and creating a space. I'm basically just an inspirational catalyst. I'm coming into yoga communities, and as communities together, creating a way that they can cohese together in a deeper way by creating a rite of passage program for 8 months. So people can create a strategy of self-care that assists them in dismantling the noise and the static and the negativity that is cycling in their lives through nutrition, through mental attitude, through the use of cell phones and other sorts of things. So all kinds of different ways now we are living in the modern world. We are needing to pay extra special attention that we're getting good, clean water, proper water. We have proper filtering systems, all of these different ways to help us clear the mood swings, the different things that are happening with so many of us due to environmental impacts. And they're happening through the airwaves, and they're happening also on the ground. And there's things that we can do to minimize that and also create a space for ourselves to just sit and recharge and do our silent meditation practice, which connects us in and creates a groove so we can actually create greater bandwidth that has a stronger signal to the greater aspects of ourselves.
Yeah, you are an activist in all. I mean, like I called you a tree with so many branches that bear all different fruits on every branch, and I'm just so inspired by your care and wisdom and wanting and how you're sharing this knowledge, and being the scientist and artist that you are, an activist. Would you like to share anything that you've learned about the dolphins and whales and where this tour is going to be ending up in Australia?
Well, yeah, it's so funny because, Veruschka is talking about, we're going to release a new album called It's All a Beautiful Noise, which 4 songs from the album, or 3 songs from the album, we actually play. My husband and I sing in the yoga, and my husband plays. And it's a very beautiful album. People wanting to hear some of the music, they can go to allabeautifulnoise.com, All a Beautiful Noise, and you can see some of the 3D mapping. It's a traveling contemporary art experience, and some of the things that are happening in the production that is being put together, and the installations that are creating in relationship to this album and all of that. But last year we were planning on releasing the album, It's All a Beautiful Noise, and debuting it on Poon Hill in the Annapurna Circuit of Nepal. And we did. We went there and we debuted the new album, and we gave a sunrise concert, a global first. No one's ever done it before. We had 52 people in our trekking party. It was an 11-day trek. 24 of them were porters, and 2 of them were guides. We had band members, we have crew, we have, and the rest are fans and a camera crew. And we did this trek all through Nepal, just really amazing. And then, and we got to give concerts free, and it's just amazing. And then we left on this really high note, and then the earthquake struck Nepal. And so we then decided that it wouldn't be right to actually release the record on the back of that horrible disaster. And so instead, we turned around and we raised money in conjunction with the Crystal Castle in the Byron Shire, and they have a peace stupa there, and we gave a concert, a benefit concert, and raised over $60,000 in the Shambhala Gardens of the Crystal Castle and in front of the peace stupa. So, so what are we going to do this year? We committed to it for this year.
I don't know how you come up with these world-moving things that lead to such events.
And so what we decided to do is what I've always wanted to do was I wanted to play music on the floor of the sea for whales and dolphins. I've always wanted to do this, and I saw a documentary like 30-something years ago. And in this documentary, these marine biologists, and one of them they were on a sailing yacht, and they were in the Caribbean, and this musician played a synthesizer under the water, and the dolphins came and danced around him. And I always thought, how cool would that be? And so I just thought, let me see. I heard about this bubble helmet. I called this company on Candid. They agreed to be sponsors so I can actually sing underneath the water to the dolphins. And as you heard the music from the new album, some of the music is super epic and beautiful and vast, and it's perfect music to sing to whales and dolphins. And so we're going to do it in Hervey Bay, where the whales all go to have their babies and to mate and to summer, or winter, I guess. They go up to Queensland and to this particular area. And we're doing it in September at the end of our world tour.
Well, that's just amazing. I'm just speechless. And also, I'd like to ask you about the title of your album. It's a beautiful noise. What is that? It's
all a beautiful noise. Yeah, so when I first met Mick, my husband, it felt like a beautiful noise. Just the loving energy, it just felt like a beautiful noise. And so for me, it was appropriate that we call this album It's All a Beautiful Noise. Even the stuff sometimes that doesn't feel fun that you have in a relationship, and all the noise of life that can feel these mountains of pressure, all the things, to be alive is a beautiful noise.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a new take, and I think it's a time that we really need to reframe things and really embrace the beauty of our paradox, or the paradox of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. what since you are doing so many positive things to support the soul, to support this earth, to support our bodies, and entertain with beauty to our ears and to our eyeballs with these amazing installations, and also the beautiful art you put into the actual CD case. What lights you up? What drives you every morning?
Well, growing and evolving in doing my work, to do my own mindfulness practice, and to just like I'm teaching what I have most to learn. So for me, what makes me, when I actually show up and do the work that I know of letting go and stepping more and more into my power and having the courage to share what I'm sharing with you and other people, because it's kind of scary to step out and put yourself out and say, I want to just love you, and I see you, and these are the things that I'm seeing, and this is what I'm learning, and that we can share and activate each other in letting stuff go and build a greater global community. And that idea of joining together. Look, you're a beautiful gem of beauty, and we're each resonant water beings. We're resonant beings. We each have a unique signature. And if we could hear at all levels, we would actually hear, we would be emitting a frequency that comes off of us. And when we're in tune with who we are and the beauty of who we are, and being able to hold that resonance and cultivate that resonance and create the space for that resonance to actually just exist in the beingness of who we are, I believe tethering together and joining together in like-minded community, we could wrap the world in beauty and add to the resonance and change and be a part of a tipping point in what's calling us to evolve as a species on this planet.
Yeah, wrap the world in beauty. I love it. Gorgeous. Would you like to say anything else? We were talking about this earlier, of the process of letting go.
I think that, we know we have patterns that we do over and over that we don't want to do anymore. We see them. We already have the hints. We know what our family has done that we don't like and that we do ourselves. And then it's like, okay, I have this addiction to this kind of relationship. I have addiction to eating things that don't actually nurture me. And actually, I have addiction to shame. I have addiction to pain. I have addiction to feeling less than. We have to recognize these things are going on. And so I don't want to do this thing anymore. And then suddenly go, you know what? I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to sit with myself and reflect and connect in and plug into the power that I was given and born with. That's my birthright. And I'm going to plug into this power, and I'm going to create and align with communities that add up to supporting ways that I can let go of this stuff that's not supporting who I am in these different ways, and begin eating foods that really speak to us, because I think the plants give us nutritional information that's also other kinds of information that's more than just what we think about what food is. It adds to us being able to perceive and reality in new ways if we're open to that. So I think there's a huge, drinking water, doing breath meditations, all of these different things, all the elements that exist that are here in this reality also offer us nutrient in ways that expand our intelligence and our ability to actually meet and problem solve. So I think it's tapping into the knowledge and understanding that is also there, and saying, okay, I'm willing to key in and check out whether that's actually true or not, and then go on a journey and and discover for yourself and have an adventure.
Well, I love that we're so aligned with this message of self-love, and that's where it all starts. So it's no surprise to me that you've intersected in my life, and that we're doing it in slightly different ways. But the beauty is that in this time and space, it is like the number one thing in all personal development teachings is you cannot get around the self-love part. You're not going to solve anything without self-love first. So, I think we're all being kind of drilled and hammered over the head with this message, but there are just infinite ways of doing it, of learning it, of stopping and starting there again. I was excited to hear about the book you shared that you were writing too. That is probably a really great, just practical, hands-on way of educating yourself to take these basic fundamental steps. Is that correct?
Well, there's a book actually. Well, there's Living Beauty, Alchemy of Acceptance, which is another book, and it's not like a practical book. It's more. It involves an archetype called the prisoner, and it's a very interesting book. And being a prisoner in our own selves, right? And the process of freeing ourselves. And so that's a little bit different because it's kind of it's a little different. This book that I'm working on right now, which will be released this year, and I have a publisher for, is a book called Seed, SEED. And I'm really excited about this book because it focuses on self-care in the modern world, and it's covering all the things that I believe are really important to us doing the hands-on, the real kind of the grounded bits and bobs that are a part of tracking down and finding the pieces that are getting in the way of us holding the resonance. And I think those are the bits that are tricky, and how we need to look at caring for ourselves now in this time. Yeah. And after being poisoned by my drinking water and the products that I use every day on my body. I mean, look at in 2006, doing research for my business plan and looking at what the statistics are on women using natural beauty body products, I found out that women at that time had been researched that the average woman was exposed to 40 carcinogenic ingredients a day. That's just crazy, right?
I think if we knew even a fraction of what we're exposed to every day, we would all be hypochondriacs. But for good reason. But yeah, that's why I'm very excited about your book, Seed, because it is like this just fundamental knowledge that we need like yesterday, right? So yeah. I'm really excited that you're bringing out just these very basics that are like our birthright to know how to take care of ourselves and how to access it. Well, I'm just so fascinated by everything that you are broadcasting and being, and I'm so grateful for what you're doing. I wish you the most amazing time this year on this tour, and all the fortunate beings that will be able to get in contact with you. And I will be listing all the variety of offerings that you have in the comments with the YouTube, so it will all be accessible. And I hope that everyone will be able to find you in the place that they're in and access you. And especially, I mean, your wonderful products, they're available now and they're accessible and very reasonable. Anything else you would like to share that's in your heart?
I think that's really great. Thank you so much for giving me the time and space and to actually communicate what's very close to my heart and what I'm really excited about right now and what we're doing. And I love it. And you gave me, the bandwidth to be able to speak very articulate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Toni, and I look forward to following your adventures on Facebook as well. I love the pictures that Mick takes, too. It's the whole Nepal trip that just blew me away when I opened that up, and you came onto my radar again. It just was such synchronicity with how the mountains have been showing up for me, too.
That's so great. That's so cool.
All right, thank you, Toni. Okay, aloha to you.